And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. My name is David Steele. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day. Um, this is the third episode in a little series on Disney Plus. This is Secret Invasion Thursdays. So, I just got a chance to watch it, I don't know, about an hour ago, and it was good. It was really good. I mean, overall impressions, it was really good. Um, Middle of the road. I mean, compared to what the other two episodes have been, it's middle of the road. But yeah, so we're right. Hey, Meadow, how are you? So we're right in the middle of the season. I mean, this is the middle of the season. It's the third episode. So, couple of things I noticed off the top. Okay. Um, First and foremost, I mean, there was a couple of weeks ago. Okay, there was a lot of concern, shall we say, about the opening and how the artists and even basically said how they used AI. And, you know, I got to say that it didn't bother me. I understand what the concerns are. And listen, this is not going to be, they're doing this because I mean, they even came out with a statement and said, look, nobody lost their job to this. AI was just used as a tool, and that's fine. Um, and frankly, I don't know if they could have actually come up with this concept opening with a different opening through everything. And I really like it. I don't think it takes away from it. And, you know, it looks really good. I got to be honest. It looks really good. So, I mean, when it's used as a tool and it's done well, that's the kind of results you get. And I think that's where, you know, now look, like I said, I understand there are concerns about it, but at the same time, I think if it's done correctly and done right, um, I don't think there should ever be a problem. So as it opens, basically, we are in New York City, and basically, this is when his Fury meets his wife, and they have just started to date, and they're at a coffee shop, and then they go, and then after the, by the way, you know, um, we kind of get a hint at, they are, or maybe he is, a Skrull, because I mean, there are questions asked in there, and then you can't really, she says you really can't date within the unit, and so nonetheless, then it goes to present day, and so once we get to present day, they have a real conversation about where he's been, and understandably with the blip and everything else. And one of the cool things I do like about this is that they're actually making references to other things in the MCU. For example, the blip. That goes all the way back to another movie, and so it's one of those things where I think that it's really good. So she gets a phone call, and he asks, "Well, what was it?" And she's like, "Oh no, it was nothing." And so you see that shot of Fury looking at the phone and wondering, and by the way, the seed's been planted, right? Because as everybody remembers from the end of the second episode, that I'll call it the oh shit moment was when we find out that she's a Skrull, and he has no idea. So it's one of those things where the seed of doubt has been planted, and how far is that going to go? And so from there, we basically see a couple of files being given out and a couple of people being infiltrated to actually for a bigger plan. And before the actual credits, go on, we see this person walk into this room. I mean, you can tell it's graphic, you know, and this was basically the research lab where they had that husband and wife from episode 2, and they were trying to develop this. And so they bring in the United Nations Council, of course, from the last episode, and they're going to make them into Super Skrulls. And it's one of those things where it's pretty cool to see. I mean, we never see them turned into Super Skrulls. We see it later on, at the end of the episode where they're kind of in that state with the things in their head. But yeah, and it was so that's one of those things where he's looking out to basically have maximum damage inflicted on everybody. And so, Guy is basically helping Ben Mendelsohn's character, Talos, which we still don't know what the relationship with that is. We think we do. Basically, they're actually, I think we really do, and that's father-daughter. Okay. And so there's actually a really cool scene coming up with that. But it's so one of the scenes that actually we see is they're actually going to be in a meeting, Talos and Gralik. And so, we see the World War I painting, and that, they try to make a couple of similarity, what do they say, statements and soldiers. So, I mean, it's almost the same thing. It's kind of reminded me of the whole Skyfall scene, where Bond's meeting Q for the first time, and they're interpreting the painting. Well, nonetheless, it's the same thing here. But then they go to have coffee. So you have all these people around, and they bring the coffee, and he starts pouring the sugar in, and he says, "Well, why don't you just ask for an empty cup?" So he basically he wants to really, there's a lot of verbal jabs going back and forth there, kind of like we had in the last episode with Rhodey and Fury in the restaurant. So this time it's in the museum, and this was a really cool shot. So he was about ready to, literally had his hands around his necks, and all these people stand up. And then next thing you know, they turn all into Gravik. And it's like, whoa. Okay. So don't forget, Talos had just told Fury that there were 1 million Skrulls on Earth at one time, any given time. And so yeah, that was a really cool shot. And then, it's one of those things where he basically says, keep my daughter's name out of your mouth. So he basically takes a knife and he puts it right through his hand. But I always thought it was, you see it just come back to form, and like, oh, wow, this is cool. The effects here are really good. And you just see how evil this guy is. And so during the whole episode, Guy is feeding Talos information. And so, they find out from her that, there's this thing in Washington. This guy in Washington has been, Fury calls Olivia Colman's character, and basically gets the information. And then so Talos and Fury are having this conversation in the car, and you really get a lot of backstory there, right? Because Talos is basically saying, without me, you would be nothing. When you started in S.H.I.E.L.D., we are the ones that gave you all of the information, all of the dirt, all of the stuff to basically go get promoted time after time after time. And Middlesound says, it looks like extreme. Yeah, it does. It does. That's actually a very good take on that. I like that, actually. It does. And you got to wonder if there wasn't some sort of similarity there that they were actually trying to do that with. No, that you're absolutely right about that. So it's one of those things where I think that, so you see how they work, and they are shapeshifters, and they can take the form of anybody. And so basically they go to this commandant's house, and meanwhile Neptune is actually in the ocean, okay? And then it's a nuclear sub. And they're trying to race against time. So to do this, and so Talos and Fury, their cover is blown, and so they, one of them kidnaps or basically holds the son hostage. The other one has Talos, and so they both release him, and then they have to get this password. So that's when it's one of those things where they're trying to figure out. Fury being this kind of reminded me a little of Pulp Fiction. I'm going to give you the count of three. 1, 2, and then he steps in, because anybody who knows Pulp Fiction knows the scene which you're referring to. But nonetheless, we see Talos basically says, "Let me do this," and so that's when the Commandant makes a comment and he just shoots him, and so he has to then call Gaia, because Gaia, you got to remember, Gaia is the one that basically has been feeding him information without Gravik knowing. And so, he confronts her earlier in the episode and be like, "Look, somebody knew we were going to be there. Who was it?" And basically, she blamed it on the guy, Brogdon. Now, Brogdon, don't forget, guys, was that guy that they killed in the woods. So, they didn't know if that was actually they were them. So he was really on the fence about it. So once she gets the password, okay, she calls her father back, and basically the whole mission's aborted. At which point she tries to escape. And this is when things get a little interesting, because once that happens, car pulls up and she gets caught. And so it was actually really cool seeing how they did it. I mean, it was dark. I mean, this doesn't even begin to say how dark it was. And subsequently, she's going on the motorcycle and then she slides down, and you just see this figure get out. And we know it's Gravik from the figure. And basically says, "Where are you going?" And she tried to make something up. And he pulls a gun out. And he's like, "Look, you're going to have to either say that you're going to have to call me a traitor," because she didn't think that he had the gumption to do it, even though she had seen everything that he'd done before. And that's when he shoots her. He just shoots her right there without even hesitating for a moment. Just shoots her. And, I mean, this is going to have serious repercussions down the road for him, and I think for everybody, frankly, because it's one of those things where it's one of those things where you don't know how he's going to react. You don't know what's going to be going on with that, and he's going to be pissed. Now he wants to kill him even more. And I wouldn't be shocked in the season finale if we see that, he is the one that actually kills Gravik because of the loss of his daughter. I mean, he's going to be so enraged in this next episode that that's going to be it. And that was kind of like the oh shit moment, if you will. That moment where you weren't expecting it, but you were a little caught off guard when it happened. But that's not where it ends. You think, okay, that would be a good place to end it. Where they ended it, was Vanya. So just like in the beginning, she goes to get the gun. And when she goes to get the gun, it's one of those things where, because don't forget, guys, she's a Skrull. And so that being said, that, so she got the meeting place where Nick's going to be. And now we have to wait to see what happens. So it's crazy because she might take the serum that they were making out. So I mean, there's something there too. So um, yeah, I mean, but yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where I think that it's going to be interesting to see. So we're halfway through the season, and I said it last week. I thought that 3 and 4 were going to be kind of the mediocre type of episodes. This was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything great. I mean, it had its moments, like the conversation that Gravik and Talos had, and the conversation in the car, and I mean the little moment there at the end. So it had its moments. It wasn't great, but it wasn't, you know, boring to say the least. Um, so I mean, it moved it along. It moved it along. I think that's the important thing. I think, and once again, they left you every single one of these episodes. They've left you at a cliffhanger. They've left you in a moment where we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, in the first episode, you had the explosion. Okay, you had, Maria dying. In the second episode, we learned that Vanya is a Skrull, and now in the third episode, we hear that from Gravik, we know where Nick Fury is going to be. Go kill him, and it's really going to be I think this next episode, and I don't know this to be true. I think this next episode is going to really focus on her. I think it's going to focus on her and the assassination attempt on Nick's life. Because I think once we get past that, because that's kind of a storyline that's developed in the last 2 episodes, right? I mean, we haven't really fleshed that out. We haven't really, gone deeper into that. I mean, there have been a couple of instances, a couple of scenes, but we have not really fleshed this out all the way. And I think now what they're going to do is we're going to really get an idea of what's going to happen. And I think that, now that Talos knows his daughter's dead, he's going to want revenge. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that they are setting this up to have a very big, big finale. Now, I wouldn't be shocked too if either this episode or episode 5 ends where we think the villains are going to really succeed, right? They're right on the brink of succeeding. In episode 6, the finale, they're gonna have to clean everything up. They're gonna have to undo everything that the villains have done. So I think the Skrulls are going to get very close to their objective in one of these times, because don't forget, even though the bomb went off in episode 1, and now, I mean, so don't forget, all of the council people are now kind of trapped. Okay. So they're going to have to, I mean, what happens to them too? Do they die? Or are they going to take the serum? And what is this serum? Is it super Skrulls? I mean, that's the thing. So we haven't seen it used yet. That's something else to be noted too. We've only heard about it. We've only seen the research, but we've not seen this used. I think the next episode, you're going to see this used in some capacity. And once it's used, then we're going to see the effects and what it makes the Skrulls like. And then there are a couple of other questions here. What happens to the people that have the mind control things? One thing I did actually write down that I thought was cool is when Guy was trying to get the password from the Commandant, and he was going through the memories. So that was awesome. I really, really liked that. I mean, she was basically looking through his memories to find the code word, which of course, was his son's name. So Zachary, not a shock there, but yeah. yeah, I think this was a good episode. It wasn't great. It moved the story along, and I think that it's setting everything up for the next couple of episodes. And, like I said, don't be shocked if this next episode is kind of on the fence too, and 5 is when it really picks up. I mean, you have to come out start with literally with a bang, as they did in episode 1, and then episode 2 is like, okay, move the story along, and that's essentially what this did. It moved the story along. We got a little more backstory, okay, with you know with Talos and Gaia. She's obviously gone, so it's one of those things where I think that it's going to be interesting to see how. And this is why. I mean, he basically said it. He's like, "Well, why are you with me?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not with him." So I think that it's one of those things where there are more questions to be asked, and I think that that's the important thing. But as I said, it was a good episode. It was a good episode. It was solid. It moved the plot along. We got more questions at the end, and I think that all that being said, I think that episodes 4 is going to be pretty good. I mean, it's not going to be it's not going to be unbelievable, but it's not going to be terrible either. I like this episode. I think it was, for what it was worth, it was good. So, yeah, I mean, this is a good show. And I think right now, this is what they needed. And I'm talking about Disney and Disney Plus, because don't forget, guys, the Marvels was supposed to come out this month. And they pushed that back to November, which I'm glad they did, by the way. I mean, we've got Guardians hitting streaming, I think, next week or the week after that. So they needed something to keep it going. It's going to be interesting to see what happens between, once this is over, August and November, right? Because we're not going to have anything. But yeah, I really like this, and it was well done. It was well done. It wasn't the greatest episode, and when you only have 6 episodes of television, that's something else to be said too, right? Because it's you have to. That's why, I mean, this episode was 44 minutes. Take out credits, you're talking about like a 37 or a 38-minute episode. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad they're right around this length too. And I spoke about it, I think, on episode 1. When this first originally aired, because it was one of those things where it wasn't like The Mandalorian. It was bouncing back and forth from like 54 minutes to 37 minutes to 45 minutes. It was more of, hey, look, this is a reasonable time and everything else. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it was good. Not great, like I said. And I'm looking forward to episode 4. I am, and I'm really curious to see what happens. So, as I said, this was a pretty short video, but I just wanted to put this out because, we are doing Secret Invasion Thursdays. So, but that all being said, couple of things. Number one, tomorrow is Friday, okay, which means you guys are going to be getting the last Mission Impossible film. That is Mission Impossible Fridays, and that is going to be Fallout. So this is the last film that was done back in 2018. It grossed right around $790 million worldwide. Unbelievable movie. Script written by Christopher McQuarrie, once again, directed by McQuarrie. Stunts were outrageous as it continues to grow. And then on the 10th of the month, so 4 days from now, 4 days, I will be going to see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. and I will be seeing that in IMAX. Now, for that, okay, I'll probably be going back to see it on Wednesday too. Don't forget, guys, they moved up the opening of Dead Reckoning Part 1 to the 12th. It was originally supposed to come out the 14th. But so yeah, I'll be going to see it the 10th. The spoiler cast for that, okay? The spoiler cast for Dead Reckoning is going to be all the way on the 17th. Okay. Let me just double check that. So the 15th. I'm sorry, the 15th. So the 15th. It's going to be the 15th of July, not the 14th. So that's going to be the Saturday. And then we'll figure out what we'll do. And don't forget, guys, we got an Oppenheimer coming out on the 19th, the 21st, actually. I think it's the 21st. It's either the 19th or the 21st. It's the 21st. Okay, it's the 21st. So it is the 21st. So yeah. So don't forget about that. And then the spoiler cast for that will be on the Saturday. So I'll be going to see those on Thursday. We'll do the spoiler cast on Saturdays. And then Ask Me Anything will be on Sunday. So, yeah. So as far as quickly, Skyfall. I'm going to be doing Skyfall for the next Perfect Movie. That will be July's Perfect Movie. And then if you guys, want to support me in any way, I know Metal is, and he was, and he's not here, I don't believe, but nonetheless, Metal is a member. Okay, we have a couple other members. Okay, there's a couple of different ways you can support me. Number one, okay, you can head on over to the store and pick up a shirt or a mug or a hoodie or something like that. Number two, you can drop a super chat if you come in here and you're liking the conversation, what's going on. Or number three, you can head on over to my Patreon, where there's two shows. One is Mob Mondays, that's $5 a month. And the other is Rewatch Wednesdays, and that is $10 a month. If you get Rewatch Wednesdays, you'll get both of them. And then, so yeah, you'll be supporting me in all these. And that's what keeps, this going monetarily. If you want to do nothing else, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button, because that's the way this gets out, and I want everybody to see this. So, yeah, and that's about it. I mean, it's one of those things where I'd like to keep the content, keep doing shows, and, you guys make this possible. Just keep that in mind. You guys make this possible. And I think that, this is why I do this. So it's you guys. So, okay. So that's, as I said, this was a pretty short video. But I did want to bring this on because I said I was going to. So do the three things you need to do. Be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day. And I will see you back here tomorrow for Mission Impossible Fridays. And that's going to do it. All right. I'm David Steele, and this has been Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.